culture of debate meant that the decisions of king and parliament were held to public scrutiny. In 1733, Sir Robert Walpole introduced an excise bill to Parliament, imposing a tax on popular commodities like wine and tobacco. Now, nobody likes a new tax, especially not the self-confident new London trading classes. There were riots outside Parliament, and Queen Caroline and Robert Walpole were burnt in effigy. Crucially, though, the king stood by his minister. He let it be known that to oppose his government was to oppose the king himself. If you went against Walpole, then, you were a traitor. One of Walpole's opponents in Parliament was Lord Cobham. He had been a great supporter of the Hanoverian monarchy. But for his disloyalty, the king ejected Cobham from the House of Lords. Cobham retreated to his country house at Stowe. Here, he planted his revenge in the form of Stowe's magnificent landscape garden. In Georgian Britain, even gardening was political. The landscape garden was supposed to embody British liberty. A place where, as one Georgian put it, the eye can roam free. But Stowe also delivered a more pointed message. Cobham hid within it a series of secret meanings or metaphors for contemporary politics and morality. Now, you weren't expected to work out all of these hidden secret meanings all by yourself. You could buy a guidebook to the gardens, like this original Georgian version. And it tells me that at this spot here, I have a decision to make. I can either turn up that way, which is the path of virtue. Up there we have temples dedicated to virtue and the heroes of history. Or I can go down that way. That's the route of vice. Down there, the book promises me lustful monks, women out of control, group sex and voyeurism. The garden at Stowe certainly drew in the crowds, and Lord Cobham had thoughtfully built this inn on the outskirts to accommodate them all. The tourists who chose the path of virtue crossed a series of bridges to illustrate that a virtuous life is never without its obstacles. But I'm on the path of vice, where visitors get titillation alongside moral instruction. One of the stopping off points is the Temple of Venus. The book tells me that the paintings in here tell the story of this lady who runs away from her disagreeable husband and goes instead to revel with a beastly herd of satyrs, these famously lascivious creatures. So it's basically a temple to naughty women. But we're still in the vice area of the garden, don't forget, so we know not to follow their example. Let's go on improving our characters somewhere else. But Cobham intended his garden to offer something more than just moral instruction. Stowe also reads like a political pamphlet, Cobham's own State of the Nation address. And some of his messages seem to be aimed directly at Frederick, Prince of Wales. Cobham and his group of opposition politicians had identified the prince as a potential leader for their cause. At the heart of the garden is the Temple of British Worthies. Here I'm meeting Richard Wheeler to find out how this pantheon of British heroes is actually an attack on George II. Obviously, there's politics going on here. He's chosen some characters but not others. What was he trying to express?
Well, there's a subtext going on here because he had just broken from Sir Robert Walpole's Whig party to form his own internal Whig opposition, the Whig Patriots. So we have King Alfred, the mildest justice, most beneficent of kings, everything that King George II was not, and beside him over the Black Prince, the terror of Europe, the delight of England, everything to which Prince Frederick aspired. And of course Prince Frederick was the titular leader of the Whig opposition to Sir Robert Walpole.
Why was Cobham so much against Sir Robert Walpole?
Because he was our first Prime Minister, and the idea of a Prime Minister was deeply objectionable, that one person should rule was dictatorial, absolutist, and everything that was wrong.
So according to the guidebook, King Alfred's been picked out because he guarded liberty and he was the founder of the English Constitution. This is all significant, isn't it?
The English Constitution is probably the most significant, because if anything works at Stowe, it's the idea of our old Gothic constitution deriving from the Witan, the Parliament of the Saxons. So we have Alfred here, the greatest of the Saxon kings, and on the hill behind you've got the Saxon Temple, which is otherwise known as the Temple of Liberty. So it's all anti-autocracy, and the main point of which was that Parliament chose the king, as it did in Saxon times. And I think a lot of this is instruction for Prince Frederick, telling him how to behave if he's going to be a patriot king. One has to remember that Lord Cobham and all his compatriots were the ones who brought the Hanoverians over, but they've got to remain under control.
Yes.
So it's the Whig oligarchy who are actually running the country, and the king as a constitutional monarch. So the idea of the constitution, really important, and the king really doing what he was told.
And guess what? There's no Germans here at all.
No, they're all over the other side of the garden, in the Garden of Vice. I don't quite know why, but there it is.
None of